February 1943, Tunisia. The sand was still hot from battle when German Lieutenant Klaus Fischer stood before something that would haunt him for the rest of his life. It wasn't the bodies scattered across the desert. It wasn't the burning wreckage. It was a single American M4 Sherman tank, abandoned but still breathing. Serial number USA 3,067,641. The crew had fled or died, but the machine sat there, scarred and smoking, like it was waiting for him. Fisher circled it slowly, his boots crunching on spent shell casings. The armor was pockmarked with hits. Burn streaks ran down the turret. This tank had been through absolute hell. And yet, when his men checked it over, the engine turned. The tracks moved. Everything worked. "Load it up," Fisher ordered, trying to hide the unease in his voice. Berlin will want to see this. What he didn't know, what he couldn't know, was that this beat-up American tank was about to expose the greatest lie of the Third Reich. The journey from African sand to German soil took weeks. The Sherman, this prize of war, was transported to Kummersdorf Proving Grounds, 30 miles south of Berlin. This wasn't just some military garage. This was the holy temple of German engineering, the place where the finest technical minds in Europe tore apart enemy weapons and proved, time and again, that German innovation was unmatched, that German precision was unstoppable. The facility was run by Oberst Heinrich Müller, a career officer who'd seen every weapon system the Allies could throw at them. And waiting for the Sherman's arrival was Hauptmann Werner Schultz, one of the lead designers on the Panther and Tiger tank programs. The man who'd helped create the most fearsome armored vehicles ever built. When the transport truck rolled through the gates with the Sherman chained to its bed, Schultz actually smiled. He walked up to it with the casual confidence of a master craftsman examining an apprentice's work. His hand ran along the riveted hull, feeling every crude weld, every simple joint. "Gentlemen," he announced to his team, his voice dripping with amusement, "this is what happens when Americans try to build a tank. Look at it, simple, crude, mass-produced. Garbage." He knocked on the armor with his knuckles. "Our Tigers would go through 10 of these before breakfast, 20 before lunch." The other engineers laughed. They'd all heard the stories about American industrial capacity quantity over quality, they said, throwing resources at problems instead of solving them with intelligence. But Colonel Müller wasn't laughing. He stood back, arms crossed, his face unreadable. He'd been reading intelligence reports, battle assessments. Something wasn't adding up. The Americans were losing individual tank engagements, yes, but they kept coming back. Again and again and again. "Enough commentary," Muller said quietly. "Let's see what we're actually dealing with. Begin the tests." They started with the basics. Fire up the engine. Test the transmission. Check the suspension and tracks. Standard procedure for any captured vehicle. Just get it running and see what breaks first. The engine coughed, sputtered, then roared to life. A young technician, Lieutenant Hoffman, climbed underneath to inspect the transmission. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. "Sir?" Hoffman called out, confusion thick in his voice. He slid out from under the tank, grease smeared across his face. "The transmission. There's something wrong with the maintenance logs." Schultz walked over, irritated. "What do you mean, wrong?" Hoffman held up the documentation they'd recovered with the tank. "According to this Sherman has been in continuous combat operation for 6 months. 6 months in the desert. But, sir, the transmission shows almost no wear. The gears look like they've barely been used." Schultz snatched the documents. "That's impossible. They must have replaced it before abandoning the vehicle. Run the tests again. They didn't replace it." Over the next 3 days, the German engineers ran every diagnostic they had. Then they made the comparison that would change everything. They brought in components from their own tanks. Transmissions from the Panzer IV, the brand new Panther. Even the legendary Tiger, all superior machines, all built with precision that American factories, with their mass production and assembly lines, could never match. The endurance test was simple. simulate combat conditions, run the transmission through hell and see how long it lasts. They started with the Panther transmission, Germany's newest, most advanced medium tank, designed to counter the Soviet T-34, the pride of German engineering. It failed at 150 kilometers. The room went quiet. "Run it again," Schultz said. They did, same result. 150 kilometers, then catastrophic failure. They tested the Sherman's transmission, that simple, old-fashioned design with herringbone-cut gears, the kind of thing American car companies had been using since the 1920s. Nothing innovative, nothing impressive. It lasted 5,000 kilometers. Someone dropped a wrench. The clang echoed like a gunshot through the shocked silence. Schultz's hands were shaking as he held two gears side by side, one from the Panther, one from the Sherman. "This can't be right," he whispered. "Our metallurgy is the finest in the world. Our tolerances are perfect. This has to be a mistake." It has to be, but it wasn't a mistake. Over the next 2 weeks, the tests got worse. So much worse. The Sherman's engine, a modified radial aircraft engine. Basically, a truck motor ran for 1,200 hours between major overhauls. The sophisticated Maybach engines in Panthers and Tigers, 300 to 400 hours before they catastrophically failed. The Sherman's tracks lasted thousands of kilometers of hard use. Panther tracks needed constant replacement after just hundreds. Every system they tested told the same horrifying story. And then came the detail that broke them completely. When something failed on a Sherman, any crew member could fix it in minutes with basic tools. The spare parts were standardized, interchangeable, designed for soldiers in the field. When a Panther broke down, which was constantly, it needed specialized tools, trained technicians, and sometimes had to be shipped back to factories in Germany for repairs. 3 weeks into the testing, Muller found Schultz alone in the workshop at 2 in the morning. The man was sitting on the floor, surrounded by disassembled Sherman components, and he looked like he'd aged 20 years. There were documents spread everywhere. Test results. Comparison charts. The evidence of a truth so devastating it was breaking him. "They didn't try to make it perfect," Schultz said without looking up. His voice was hollow, defeated. "The Americans. They didn't try to out-engineer us. They just made it work. And keep working." He picked up a simple bolt, held it up to the light. "Look at this. It's not precision machined to exact tolerances. It's rough, basic. Any factory in America can make 1,000,000 of these in a day. And there are 5 identical replacements in the spare parts kit that comes with every tank. If it breaks, any idiot with a wrench can swap it out in 5 minutes," he gestured weakly to a Tiger transmission component on the workbench beside him. That requires a specialized tool that we manufacture exactly 12 of per week. It needs a trained mechanic with 3 years of experience. And it takes 6 hours to replace in field conditions." Tears were running down his face now. "We've been building masterpieces. They've been building weapons. And we were too arrogant to see the difference." In April 1943, the official report landed on desks throughout the German High Command. 27 pages of technical data, comparison charts, and brutal conclusions. The operational readiness statistics were irrefutable. Sherman tanks maintained 80 to 85% operational readiness in field conditions. For every 10 Shermans built, 8 were fighting at any given moment. Panther tanks? 20 to 40% operational readiness. For every 10 Panthers built, only 2 or 3 were actually in combat. The rest were broken down, waiting for parts or being repaired. Tigers were slightly better at 30 to 45%, but only because they were produced in such small numbers that they received priority for spare parts and mechanics. The report's conclusion was stark. The enemy has achieved what we could, not absolute reliability, through deliberate simplicity. Their design philosophy prioritizes function over form, repairability over performance, and sustainability over superiority. In terms of overall combat effectiveness when accounting for availability, the American M4. Sherman is the superior weapon system. So what did Germany do with this information? With this devastating truth that could have changed the entire trajectory of the war? Absolutely nothing. Because accepting the report's findings would mean accepting something ideologically impossible. That American mass production, that crude assembly line thinking, that quantity over quality approach was better. That German precision, German engineering excellence, German technological superiority, the very foundations of their national identity were wrong. The Panther program continued. The Tiger program expanded. Thousands more were built. Each one a mechanical marvel that spent more time being repaired than fighting. Meanwhile, America built over 50,000 Shermans. Not because they were the best tanks ever designed, but because they actually worked. Because they could get to the battlefield, fight, take damage, be repaired by their crews, and fight again the next day. And the next. And the next. June 6, 1944, Normandy, Lieutenant Fisher, the same man who'd captured War Daddy II in the Tunisian desert 15 months earlier, was now commanding a Panther on the Western Front. That morning, his Panther had broken down. Transmission failure, again, the third time in 2 months. His crew was desperately trying to repair it when the sound reached them. The rumble of engines. Lots of engines. Fisher climbed out of his disabled tank and looked toward the horizon. Shermans, not one, not 5. 20 of them, 30, more coming behind them. They just kept coming, rolling forward in an unstoppable wave, and his Panther sat there immobile, a 30-ton paperweight. The first shells hit before his crew could even finish the repairs. Years later, in a prisoner of war camp in Kansas, Fisher met an American officer who'd served in intelligence. Over cigarettes and coffee, the American told him about the Kummersdorf tests, about War Daddy II, about the report that Germany had buried. Fisher was quiet for a long time. Then he said something that the American officer never forgot. We beat ourselves. We fell so in love with being superior that we forgot wars aren't won by the best weapons. They're won by weapons that work, by soldiers who can fight today and tomorrow and the day after that. We built Tigers and Panthers, beautiful, powerful, magnificent. You built Shermans, simple, reliable, good enough. And good enough, when there's 50,000 of them, beats perfect every single time. War Daddy II, serial number USA 3,067,641, sits today in storage at the U.S. Army Ordnance Museum. Most people walk right past it. It's not impressive. It's not beautiful. It's just a tank. But somewhere in German military archives, those test reports still exist. 27 pages documenting a truth that pride wouldn't let them see. A truth that cost hundreds of thousands of lives. The Americans didn't beat Germany with better engineering. They beat them with better thinking. In war, reliability is the ultimate weapon. A good tank that actually runs beats a perfect tank that doesn't every single time. And sometimes the hardest truths are the ones we discover about ourselves.